Recently, there's been a lot of discussion about Kira coming back to Blue Lock, and if you're not sure why, it's basically because of a twist, as the roster expansion theories were correct. So instead of the simple 23-man squad, we actually have a maximum number of 26 players, with the 3 remaining spots being determined by Buratsuta. So in today's video, I just want to talk about who I believe will actually be in the Buratsuta 3, and why Kira may reappear but won't actually make the roster. So for the 3 remaining spots, the first person we know part of the squad is Itoshi Sai, as we specifically see Buratsuta reserve a spot for him and won't require him to pass through his selection test either. We all know he is amazing and a new gen player, and we basically know his role in the future arc, where he won't participate in the group stage but will come late into the tournament against Spain specifically. I won't talk much about his relationship with Bunny, but Sai's past and development will be saved for this match. And if Sai does want to play, I don't see why Ego would deny him, as he is an egoist and definitely better than a lot of the other Blue Lockers too. Personally, my biggest issue with the announcement of the expanded roster is the incentive for Ego to sub them into a game. For Sai, it does make sense given his skill level can rival other top tier U20 players and will be integral in defeating Spain and potentially France if they rematch. However, the 2 remaining spots are harder for Ego to justify using. These scrap players are simply worse than the 23 survivors, and so if for example Kira or Nagi comes back, then why would Ego sub them into a game if they are clearly worse than those who developed in the NEL and they didn't get their own individual training and last training session like the others. In terms of skill, these 2 remaining players that Buratsuta intends to have on the roster must be good enough relative to the other Blue Lockers for them to sub into a game to justify their existence in the story. Well, the most obvious candidate to me is Nagi. Ever since his elimination, I've yapped about him returning to the story and how it wasn't over for him, and since then he's had so many chapters dedicated specifically to him to the point I think he's had more screen time than Isagi. We've seen Buratsuta directly approach him and want Nagi specifically for the program because of his popularity and the potential revenue he could generate, but in the previous chapter he declines his offer, and so I've seen some people reject the idea of his return. Nagi has hit a rock bottom, cried, and shown the most emotion he's ever experienced before, and so is at a point which Baro said he should hit to climb back again. And with Isagi telling him not to give up, then it should be a clear indicator that he will return. Also, I want to highlight that when Nagi was at the arcade and looked lifeless the first time, he lost the game when playing as the hero character. But instead of a defeat and continue screen, we see him win this time as the villain, and so it's foreshadowing that he will betray Blue Lock as he accepts Buratsuta's offer. Now Nagi declined the offer because he did not disagree with Ego and doesn't want to betray Blue Lock. He even gets criticized for his arrogance, and the thing is, Buratsuta is right. If Nagi was a true egoist, he should not feel bad about opposing Blue Lock. He should challenge them and use them as a stepping stone for his own development and reaching the number 1 spot. Ego even tells the other Blue Lockers in the latest chapter it's fine for them to use him, as it's fine for Ego to use them to fill his own dream. The other issue people have underestimated is the actual contract is ridiculous. Handing over your complete soccer career to Buratsuta is a crazy proposition and really risky. But the one benefit of Nagi is the fact he is best friends with Ryo, who is wealthy, and so if there's a way to escape through financial needs by breaking the contract, then he is the man to do so. And the main reason I believe this will happen is because I want to mention the importance of the numbers, where the BLTV revenue is similar to the number Ryo got offered. Similar to how Nagi was ranked 24 and only worth 1/10 of Rin and Isagi's final value with 24 million, these numbers do have reason behind them, and I don't think it's a coincidence Ryo's number matches the BLTV's. Most importantly, the focus and emphasis on Nagi's current character arc at the moment should be a huge indicator he will be one of the 2, as if he wasn't going to come back he wouldn't have as much screen time. Now my big issue with this specifically is the fact I find it difficult to understand why Ego will sub in Nagi given his dissatisfaction with him, as he believes his talent has withered away, and since Nagi isn't currently training with the squad, then he can't even witness Nagi awakening and proving to warrant subbing in. That being said, we have 8 games Japan will play, assuming they make finals, and if there's 3 or 5 substitutes per match, then there may be a situation he is required despite having better strikers on the team. Maybe Shido gets carded, Baro gets tired, or just some other roster shenanigans. Like, even if it's unlikely Ego wants to sub him in, then there will probably be a moment he does come in clutch and gets a chance. Personally, I'm expecting him to come play against England and get the game-winning goal off Hiira's assist, but that doesn't have much reasoning for now. Also, before I continue talking about who will be in the Buratsuta 3, I want to emphasize that there is still a selection test that Buratsuta will perform to determine who takes the last 2 spots. So just because a character may come back, that does not mean they will pass the test, and I bring this up as I want to talk about the elephant in the room, Ryosuke Kira. When Buratsuta comes to talk to Nagi, his goal is to take down Ego, as he himself disagrees with his choices, although he is only mad because he can't capitalize on Nagi's popularity once he got eliminated. So much so that the requirement of being in the Buratsuta 3 has them actively go against Ego's ideals and prove him wrong. Well, this fits Kira's description perfectly. He is someone who still believes in the Japanese playstyle and came into Blue Lock with the intention to prove Ego's philosophy wrong before getting eliminated. He is the only known player to have actively disagreed with Ego's mentality, and so he aligns with Buratsuta's beliefs. It also helps that Kira is effectively banned from representing Japan, and so him siding with Buratsuta may give him an opportunity. But it's not just that. Kira coming into Blue Lock was seen to be a tier above Nishioka, Saramadara, etc., as he knows the other top tier strikers and also says being number 1 will be easy. He was seen as the best upcoming striker in Japan, where he was going to be in the U18 team the following year, so he must have been skillful despite getting eliminated. Like, it's not his skills what led to his elimination anyway, it was simply his mentality. Now, we don't actually know if he went into the wildcard program or if that was solely reserved for the Blue Lock survivors in the second selection, but if he wasn't invited and went home, then there's an extremely good chance he won nationals, given all the top tier strikers like Rin, Karasu, etc. aren't playing in the tournament. For all we know, Kira's skill could be as high as Rin in the second selection. Like, if the author decided to make him return and overpowered, I wouldn't even be shocked. The other reason he fits Buratsuta's squad is simply because of his popularity. He was basically loved and known by everyone in the program like Ryo, and judging by his Valentines, he is closer to Sai in popularity than he is with Sendo. Even though he wasn't in the Blue Lock program and getting exposure through the BLTV, he was still popular in Japan and can be seen as a player with potential to be even more popular and marketable, which Buratsuta could capitalize on. So him opposing Ego, being actually skilled and also popular, then he is one of the candidates who fulfills Buratsuta's criteria the most, and I can understand why he is the prime candidate to return. But even if he fits, that does not mean he will join the 26-man squad. A key part in the chapter is that people Buratsuta chooses aren't instantly added, as he is holding his own selection for who makes the team. He won't just invite 2 people like Kira and Nagi, he will be inviting a lot of characters. Potentially people like Naruhaya, Okawa, Neo, Neru, Tokimitsu, etc. He will then find a way to filter these people through his own method for the final 2 candidates to return, and so even though I don't think Kira will make the squad, I think his return to the story is almost guaranteed, and I think in the next arc he'll be the primary antagonist. Now, even though Kira is perfect for Buratsuta, the main reason I doubt his return to the team is simply because I don't understand how he would fit into the team, given he is a striker while we have people like Rin, Isagi, Shido, and Baro. That's why I still think Igaguri may actually have a chance of coming back. I know in the latest chapter that he said he didn't get invited, but maybe Nagi asked Buratsuta to give him a chance. I'm also not sure if the 2 days remaining is the day of Igaguri and Nagi talking, or if it happened a few weeks ago where we just time jump now. Coming in with a jumper saying NM3, which reads Namasan, his catchphrase, there's such an emphasis in the number 3 with his character, where he talks about the 3 holy treasures a lot, his final salary being that number 2, and starting off as rank 300. The fact he is the author's favourite character alongside Nagi, then it is very believable he could be a returning character. Unlike the characters I'll talk about later, Igaguri actually showed some use in his militia foul, as he could stop Rin and break the flow of the game. He does have some use, and I can see Ego summon in briefly to regain control in the match. Igaguri is also the character with lots of faith and most importantly luck, and so he may have been eliminated, but lucking his way back into the story is so on brand for his character that it's actually believable. Igaguri also tried for his popularity, as he showed off to the comments, and even when he was getting subbed off made a spectacle out of himself. I guarantee you that he's popular in the Blue Lock world, and given that in the BLTV you could vote for a player to potentially save them, then that could directly relate to Igaguri returning and a reason for Buratsuta inviting him despite being less skillful than the rest. The other reason I think he'll survive is because I think the final selection test will have a battle between Igaguri and Kira in a way to show that Igaguri has surpassed him and that Buratsuta was wrong, where the egoist mentality is necessary to reach new heights. I think I'll make another video about what exactly is the Buratsuta selection later, but before then I just want to emphasize that lots of characters will return and compete for a final spot. But honestly, it's a 50-50, where I'm leaning towards Kira. I think it all comes down to the next chapter and what we see. Like if Igaguri does get invited, then I do believe it will be him, otherwise Kira does seem locked in. There's also a few other characters it could hypothetically be, although I rate them all fairly low compared to Kira and Igaguri. After Nagi, the next highest ranked player was Tokimitsu. With no sugarcoating, he played like trash in the Bayern Munich vs PXG game, and he even had a decrease in offer. But skill wise, he has so much potential. He was clashing with other top tiers in the second selection, and if he worked better on his mental, he honestly could have easily made the top 23. I honestly think if he was complacent and lean system, then he could have survived. Now Toki isn't popular at all, and I wouldn't be shocked if the author just wrote him out as a character, but he is skilled enough to at least be invited to the selection stage, given he was the second ranked highest player after Nagi. The only hint to his potential return is in the mobile game, as we see Ayu's proverb to him. The most beautiful lights are seen when we look up from the depths of despair. Where similar to Nagi, he is in his despair arc, and so hypothetically he could bounce back too. The next candidate I want to talk about is Hiiragi, who was decently important in the spin-off and gave a lot of foreshadowing for the future. In the second selection he was really good, even better than Zantetsu and Nico, but his NEL performance he couldn't develop to a level high enough like the rest of the 23. Now Hiiragi's return is actually hinted to from the spin-off's author, who made a tweet ages ago as Hiiragi will appear in the main story at some point. Now we did technically show in the NEL, but if the Buratsuta selection adds talented players, then he fits the bill and could easily be one of the final candidates for the roster. Personally, I don't think he will survive, but he will return in the story, probably as a villain role once again. The only other Fodder Blue Lock character I could see randomly joining is Nishioka. I know he is a complete meme character, but I would not write him off joining the squad. We don't know his skill level besides his title, but given his injury in the second selection, he may have some importance going forward. Like I could see a few storylines revolving Nishioka regarding Adam Blake, why he joined Manshine, etc. And if you're interested, let me know in the comments, because that does sound like a fun video. Overall, I don't think it's very likely that he makes it, and I believe he is purely a joke character. But I will never completely remove the possibility, especially given the author's other works and making joke characters survive longer than intended. There's also a few U20 players like Neo, Daro and surprisingly Hayate who had a big glow up in the NEL who will get invited, but given their relevance in the story and their overperformance, I don't think it's very likely any of them make it. Like the author didn't even intend for Sendo to make it this far, and so I don't see the remaining squad members surviving the Buratsuta selection, but at least they will attend it. I'm just hoping Naru gets invited, given he did nothing in the NEL. Now I bring these guys up simply because they had high offers in the NEL, and the fact that team coming into the U20 World Cup do lack defensive players. There's also a few other eliminated players like Narahaya who needs money, or even Kuon that could return to the story, but skillfully they are much worse than the U20 squad and they'd probably be cannon fodder for their next selection. I think we could see them actually attend and get invited, where the wildcard could be explored, but realistically none of them will survive. Of them, the only one I think has a real shot is actually Iamon. The U20 World Cup requires 3 goalkeepers, and so he could take that role, although unlikely. So to end the video, I just want to talk about why I think Igaguri will survive over Kira, and it's simply to do with the beginning of the series. In the first selection he was regarded as the worst player, with Kira the best, and even now Igaguri is still poorly regarded skill wise. So I think Buratsuta selection will end with a battle between those two, where Igaguri proves that he has exceeded all of the old Japan, showing Igo's ways were right and earn his way as one of the 3 holy treasures of Japan alongside Nagi and Sai. I also don't think Kira will sub in as a striker, given we have all the top tier strikers already, but I can see Igaguri actually getting subbed in. That being said, thanks for watching, Buddha be praised, and let me know who you think will make it, and as always, have a good day.